We all knew this day would come. I knew. You knew. There is no free will. Who are we kidding? Alright, so I'm going to try my best to not fall into any of those overused superlatives or fanboy worship and get to the point. To keep it short, yes, I effing love the Beach Boys, and Brian Wilson is a genius. Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder is a life-changing song. But the real goal here was to make a nice little piano reduction for myself to play, try to include as many of the bells and whistles on the classic Pet Sounds recording as possible, maybe add a little bit of my own flair, gawk over some special compositional moments together, and you, yes you, are invited along for the ride. It's going to be a little bit more like the journal of an arrangement, where we'll see what kind of decisions need to be made regarding octave placement, texture, and harmonics, preserving the elements you most want to bring out of the piece. At the end, I'll play for you what I've come up with, and it'll probably take a billion tries till I get something passable, but I don't have to worry about that now. Let's just put off all that dread for a later time. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the only Beach Boys song with a solo vocal? Wait, no. That's Not Me, I think also counts, even though Brian and Mike trade off. I don't know. My first step is always to map out the harmonic scheme on a grand staff using chord symbols in light pencil. Make sure you have a sharp pencil with a good eraser. Try to fit phrases on the paper in a way that's pretty to look at. 4 bars to a system is seeming to work pretty good for this song. I'm clocking how the melody fits into the chords mentally, but I'm not going to actually write down any notes till I make some decisions about octave. Only chord symbols, maybe some bass line. After listening and noodling, I got the general tonal feel and needed to decide whether to go with the key of F sharp, 6 sharps, or G flat, 6 flats, when transcribing. These two keys are enharmonically equivalent, meaning the tones that you're playing and hearing are exactly the same, it just looks different on paper. Either one will naturally contain most of the chords in the song. But which should I choose?
Well, I'll take C flat. You can keep your dang E sharp.
All right, Flatson. We'll see how this plays out in the end.
And what do you even mean, Sharpie? The first 3 bass notes of Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder, the 4th track from the groundbreaking 1966 album Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, are E flat, G flat, F. You expect me to add D sharp, F sharp, and E sharp to my hand? That is unequivocally lame, pal.
All right, let me clue you in here, Buster. In measure 5 of the verse, you've got a case of what me and the boys uptown are calling a B minor triad. B, D, F sharp, with an added 6 G sharp. You go with flats, you're gonna end up with the big old C flat minor triad on your hands. You and I, we're not the best friends or nothing. But even I don't want you going around toting an E double flat in broad stinking daylight.
Alright, Shar. I hear ya. Cool it!
Don't even get me started about the E9 chord in the middle of the chorus flats. You'd have no choice but to switch teams in the middle of the big showdown. You'd be a dang fool.
I'm no dang fool. Chopin switched teams on Prelude number 15, the Raindrop or whatever. It's this part. Right here. So what, are you fixing to be calling Sharpie a fool now too?
Flatson.
What?
Frederick Chopin is dead.
I mean, I'm generally a flats guy. We'll just start there. We can always go the other way on the final version. A huge priority of mine was to have those cool halftime triplet background figures that go against the vocal on the chorus, so I started working there, not the beginning. Star tip number 1, prioritize. Work towards a goal texture. Oftentimes when composing or arranging, you may end up working backwards in this way. When you have a specific target texture or voicing you want to end up at, you'll sculpt the previous material in a way to get you to your target as smoothly as possible. Like how I'd imagine a writer would probably structure their novel. I mean, I doubt Herman Melville just jotted down "Call Me Ishmael" and then started winging it for 600 pages. Maybe he did. You know, I actually haven't read Moby Dick. Is it good? So I spent a good chunk of time trying to weasel the background figure and lead vocal on the chorus together into something functional before even considering how I'd treat the first verse. And I made some rather troubling discoveries while putting those backgrounds and lead vocal together that we'll go over in depth later on. Let's just say laws were broken, but don't worry, I've already reported it to the authorities.
Have you been wanting to get away? Can't afford that Caribbean cruise? Too busy for a quick coastal getaway? Or maybe you're just terrified of everything outside of your house? We at HLT International are here to help you make your escape without ever leaving your couch. Please enjoy a complimentary and totally free 3.5-minute harmonic landscape tour of the classic Beach Boys song, Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder. If you exceed your generously provided 3.5-minute trial period, we'll charge you $50 every 10 seconds. It's a deal you can't resist. It's a steal. And now, for your tour guide, Arranger Rick.
The great outdoors. Hi, I'm Arranger Rick. I will be your harmonic tour guide today. We'll just kind of hit the ground running in a few seconds here, folks. I know they have your cards on file, so I want to keep this short and snazzy. E flat minor 7 starts off the verse. C half diminished over G flat to F7. F half diminished over C flat to B flat augmented 7. Resolves. E flat minor over D flat. That's the 7th down there. Pushing down. A flat 9 over C. Now, you may notice there's no A flat in that chord I'm playing. But that upper structure kind of, I can almost hear it as an undertone. So functionally, that's what I'd like to call it. Down to C flat minor 6. To G flat over B flat in its natural habitat there. To A flat minor 7. And that concludes the verse progression. This is a 6-measure verse, which is pretty unusual. They come out this time of year, I hear. And there's just a couple things that are interesting about this verse that I want to go over real quick here so that we don't miss it, folks. So we're analyzing this in the key of G flat. So that's our 6th chord. And the melody immediately emphasizes the major 6th, the 7th, and the 11th, giving us a kind of open Dorian sort of sound. Here, that C half diminish to F7. This is what I'm calling a borrowed 2-5, and we're borrowing it from the key of B flat minor. So the 2 would be C half diminished, the 5 would be F7, and then 1 would be B flat minor. Now these 2s in a minor key and in major are usually in first inversion, so you might see it with an E flat down there sometimes, like this. And you get that kind of strong root pull motion. Now what Brian does here, he's got the 5th in the bass. Some people like to call these chords minor 7 flat 5 chords. Around here we like to call them half diminished 7. So he puts the 5th in the bass, walking down to that root of the F7, and instead of going to the expected place, what we get 2, 5 in B flat minor to another 2, 5 in our original key. So that would equate to F half diminished. It's also over its 5th there, C flat, and it also steps down to B flat 7. Now here, we would normally have it in root position, but we've got the 7th here in the bass, taking us downwards. So that's F half diminished over C flat, that B flat 7, that's our 2, 5 in E flat minor, and then instead of root position, we have that D flat, the 7th in the bass, stepping us down, And what I call this would be like entering a line cliche kind of midstream, because typically with the line cliche, you'd have something kind of chromatic with the bass from the root, major 7th, to the 7th, to that major 6th, and onwards and onwards. But here, we enter it midstream. We skip to the third movement there. So, we want to go to the root, but no. Enter midstream line cliche. And here, he one-ups the line cliche by going minor. You know, typically, the next thing I was expecting, or we could expect, would be just a major 7 chord right there. But by one-upping it, we already weren't expecting this. You know, we're headed somewhere, but he one-ups it by doing that minor 4 in G flat major. In the chorus, what we have is really just a 5-2 kind of oscillating back and forth. That 5 being our D flat 7 or D flat 9. The melody is actually on the 9th, which is kind of nice, falling down to the root of A flat minor 7. That's our 2. So that's our 5, 2 in the key of G flat major. But we don't get a 1. When you have this sort of oscillation back and forth between the 2 and the 5 with no 1, you get kind of a Dorian sound. I think of Pink Floyd a lot. I feel like 90% of the material is in the Dorian mode. It has this kind of wistful, dreamy, romantic sort of atmosphere to it. Down a big third, major third, to E9. This is what I call the big Ravel moment. Maurice Ravel, he was always doing those big, those planing 9 chords. I'm thinking about the one with the princess, you know. But this is just an exact transposition of what we were doing a minute ago, but in the key of A, so a minor third higher. 9th of E9 down to the root of B minor. So first one was up here, and then up a minor third. Now this B minor chord has a variable quality. Sometimes it's major 7 up here, sometimes it's minor 7, and it's definitely minor 6 at one point when we go, listen to my heart. And it walks us down from that B minor 6 to G flat major over D flat there. And that's a very Brian Wilson kind of sound. Major chords in their second inversion. And this B minor 6 walk down can be thought of as kind of a minor 4. You could think of it as that C flat minor that we were talking about earlier. It's the same thing. Now we're calling that 1, even though it's in its second inversion. And I don't think it ever actually appears in its root position ever. I'm going to skip ahead here to the end of the second chorus so we can get into the instrumental bridge. So we're heading down. We have listen, instrumental bridge. E flat minor 7, A flat over G flat, D flat over A flat, F sharp minor 6 over A, maybe, E over G sharp, F fully diminished over A flat, G flat over B flat, C flat fully diminished to a big old D flat sus there, and it's a big one. Hey buddy, he's he's my friend. We're good. We're good. I got 2 crows perched right above me. I hope they don't I hope they don't poop on my back. So this bridge is interesting in that it quickly traverses through a few keys, through sleight of hand bass inversions that take us seamlessly through what I'm calling 3 different keys. So kicking it off with that E flat minor 7, this was our 6 before, remember, in the key of G flat. But I'm really seeing it as a pivot chord because it could be that, and it could be a 2 in the key of D flat, which is where we're headed right there. This E flat minor 7 to A flat 7 to D flat is a 2-5-1 in D flat major. Now, because of the inversions, you get something more like this. Now that A flat 7, there's no 7th to be found up here. It's way down there. Okay? And when we get to our supposed 1, it's in second inversion, so that D flat over A flat. Like I said, major chords in second inversion, very Brian Wilson. Moving up, this is another pivot chord, the F sharp minor 6 over A. Could be the minor 4 in D flat, or it could be what I'm calling a 5, a B7 in E major, which is where we're headed here, with the 7th in the bass there. Moving down to the 3rd of E major, G sharp. Now I'm calling that one F fully diminished, specifically F, because I'm seeing it as the 7 of G flat, where we're headed now. We're back home. We're back, baby. So G flat over B flat, once again, up to C flat fully diminished, which is really the same chord as the F fully diminished, just spelled out differently. To D flat sus there, okay? Until we resolve it to the chorus. Now even for old arranger Rick, this seems like a lot of information. When you're just passing through all these chords and analyzing them, every single one of them is inverted. They're just coming at you so fast. But if you just look at the trajectory of the bass, it's really just a steady climb. It fails once, has to recharge, tries again, it's headed somewhere. It's really just trying to make its way to that dominant tone to get us back to the chorus in a really magnificent way. So let's listen for that bass this time. And that concludes your Harmonic Landscape Tour. You can enter your card information below if there are any extra fees. I really hope there weren't. The utterly romantic and somewhat transcendent atmosphere of this song, I believe, owes a lot to its wide, ominous arrangement. There's this feeling of chasm, this wide open space between the deep, heavily droning bass and the high, shimmering, sustained chords, with the ride cymbal pulsing along, adding to that texture. It isn't until the second verse, when the string sextet comes in, that we get any real warmth in the mid-range. So much space for a vocal that has so little to say word count-wise. It's almost like putting Brian, and us vicariously, in the spotlight. And the lyrics of the song are interesting in that they detail a certain moment that is beyond words. I mean, don't talk, right? Is the chasm the space between what we feel and what we say? The deepest depths of heart and imagination and the futility of trying to explain it? Am I just overthinking this? These are all just thoughts. If you find any of this interesting, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Maybe you could come up with something more concise. Sunday morning, 2 days later, I collected my thoughts and started jotting down something practical for the first verse to keep consistent with the chasm concept, a deep bass tone in the left hand, vocal in the original octave starting at the center of the piano played by the bottom of the right hand, and other chord tones where I can fit them in the top of the right hand. For the second verse, I'm opting for a change of texture, with this rocking right hand block chord pattern as the thread guiding us through the chord progression, and a bit of warmth added to the mid-range this time around, with that left hand rolling up, a bit more pianistic here. So it turns out I've got the Rona, go figure, so I'm not going to work today, and I'm okay with that. I got my way pretty good to the second chorus by this afternoon, and just dove into the first few chords of the bridge. I'm still using mostly flats in my rough draft, and it is seeming like a mistake, but there's so many downsides to each team. I just don't know for certain who can get the job done without making a huge confusing mess.
Thank you. What's that?
Oh, it's nothing.
Let me see it.
Mind your own business, Flatson.
G double sharp.
Look, the third chord in the verse of Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder, the fourth track from the groundbreaking 1966 album Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, goes to the second scale degree in the key of D sharp minor. That's E sharp. We already talked about this, remember?
Yeah, I remember that. But Char, it's...
Yeah, I know, it's major.
It's a major triad. E sharp major is a monstrosity that should never see the light of day. Look what you've got there on your plate. E sharp, G double sharp, and B sharp. I think I'm gonna be sick. I mean, are you really gonna eat that?
You should be talking. You're the one who's always going around with a big old E double flat hanging out of your pants every other weekend.
Sharpie, neither of us can get through this song alone, can we? We need to support each other instead of fighting. This song needs both of us. Brian needs both of us.
It's seeming more and more like the flats and sharps are going to have to find a way to coexist. I'm still going to start with my beloved flats, but I'll switch to sharps in crucial moments, like the chorus modulation specifically. I want to create some suspense by holding back all the low end at the end of chorus 2 when the lyrics say, listen, listen. Add a slight rallentando, and then make it rich and lush again when the instrumental bridge begins. Star tip number 2, hold back frequency range to create a void of suspense. But I'll fill all that in on the chart later. I'm going to take a stroll through the neighborhood before I lose my mind. Now I want to talk about that lilting keyboard background figure on the chorus of this song. Specifically the second half of the chorus, when the key changes, but this part stays mostly the same. I see it operating as a tonal memory, carrying a piece of the past in its DNA, like a photograph or even a reverberation in a canyon. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just imagining it or if I'm actually hearing it. Let's try a little visual demonstration to show you what I mean. Let's say that this blue room is the first 4 measures of the chorus in the key of G flat major. This orange room is the next few bars, where it modulates up a minor third to the key of A. Now both of these rooms is a bit blank, kind of boring. So let's look for some decoration. Something blue. Huh. I like it. I think that little half-note triplet figure will intertwine beautifully with the vocal melody. Now for whatever reason, life is different and your room is orange now, yet you still hang that same blue frame from the old days on your wall. Can't seem to let go, can you? Doesn't quite fit in the same way as before, but who's going to stop you? It's your house, dang it. In the first part of the chorus, on the A flat minor 7 2 chord, it steps up from G flat, the 7th of A flat minor 7, to A flat, the root, B flat the ninth, C flat the third, and walks back down, skipping G flat to land on F, the third of D flat 9, targeting strong tones in this classic 5-2 sequence. Now in the key change, the background figure now resides within the pivot chord of B minor, aka C flat minor, starting on F sharp the 5th to G sharp the major 6th, A sharp the major 7th, B the root, and walking back to rest on G sharp, that 6th. It's spooky because we've got these major 6th and 7th intervals over a minor chord, and also because of the memory trick. In a different environment, these same notes did something very pleasing and made a lot more sense, so we've come to trust them in a way, even though they don't quite fit as well into our new situation. The thing that bugs me, and the reason I say that Brian broke the law, is that the vocals mode doesn't agree with this melodic minor situation suggested in the background figure. On the word "and," Brian sings an A natural, which is the minor 7th of B minor. The A sharp and the A natural don't quite overlap, but they get darn near close. And guess what? It sounds beautiful. I finished my way through the bridge, focusing on bringing out the cello line, and experimented with a way for the ending to emulate the fade out by going higher and higher. I also got to test out an intro idea I had been toying with, that being to take those signature first 3 notes of the vocal melody, rising a minor 2nd then up a 5th, and stack them into some kind of a sweep. I'm feeling committed to where my rough draft is at, and it's time to transfer to some fresh staff paper. I wrote the entire bass line and chord symbols first, then began filling in the other parts, stumbling through measures one at a time to double check if anything needs to be revoiced, and meticulously making sure rhythmic values lined up vertically between the hands. On my rough, there are also many blank measures and incomplete parts that I was too lazy to fully notate here and there, so finally filling in all those repeated 8s, etc. This will take a while, but I'll be happy to have my final. I'd been getting back into practicing more jazz and blues, a pursuit I usually hit a wall with after short spurts, but going well this time around, thanks in no small part to the resources of the legendary Kent Hewitt, my favorite YouTube jazz piano instructor. Buy his book, it's fantastic. Playing through his arrangements, I've come more and more to see how much mileage you can get out of those ascending or descending chromatic blues thirds, and will look for any opportunity to throw in a little walk-up. Thankfully, it fits perfectly as counterpoint to the melody in the chorus. Score! Star tip number 3. Keep an open mind for new discoveries at all stages. Try not to be too tethered to your past decisions. When I think about the impact the music of the Beach Boys has had on my life as a California-grown person, I can't seem to separate it from the magical feeling of being a kid. Driving around with my mom and getting really excited when the car speaker would herald that first round, round, get around. Or feeling like I was ascending the last climb on a magnificent musical roller coaster when the a cappella suspended chord came in after the slow part on Good Vibrations. I didn't have any technical terms for these things at the time. I was a kid and I hated piano lessons. But there was something that made me think, this is cool, and the way it sounds affects me deeply in a way that I just can't explain. And with that dash of childhood magic in my soul, I'm pleased to present my solo piano arrangement of Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder.
Remember that, but Char, it's
Yeah, I know, it's major.
a major triad. E sharp is a monstrosity that should never see.
E sharp major is a monstrosity.
E sharp major is a monstrosity.
That should never see the light of day.
Okay, it's a triad. E sharp major is a monstrosity that should never see the light of day. Yeah, I remember that, Char, but
yeah, I know, it's major.
it's a major triad. Is it a major triad?
In measure 5 of the verse, you've got what me and the boys uptown are calling a B minor triad.
Now you and me, we're not the best of friends or nothing. But even I don't want you going around toting an E double flat in broad stinking daylight.
Oh my god, Addie! Here we go again. So you and me, we're not even best of friends or nothing, but even I don't want you toting around town.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. What?
Frederick Chopin is dead. Do we get it?
That was it. Yeah.
Ah!
When they ask for an EPK, what does that
No.
mean?
Press package. I think electronic press kit. That's what it's called. It's usually like photos, reviews, bio.
There's no E double flat on this plate, Addie.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
We only got so much for the food budget.
Yeah. Brian needs both of us.
It's gonna be great.
It's hard to be rude to your friend.
Ready? Okay. This song needs both of us. Brian needs both of us.
Great. Let's do
Did you look to the camera?
I looked so sorry. I looked through the camera.
Okay, I went like this.
That's really good.
I'd love to hear what you think in the comments.